I've seen a couple of movies lately that I haven't had a chance to do a movie review on. So I'm going to be talking about four movies today. The first one being The Green Knight, directed by David Lowery, which tells the story about how Sir Gawain, who is the nephew of King Arthur, long lives to tell a tale of being a hero, of being a knight, but he doesn't have many to tell. So on Christmas Day, at the Round Table, when the Green Knight enters, he challenges someone to a game. Whoever can strike a blow on him must receive the same blow back a year later at the Green Chapel. Gawain then approaches the Green Knight, cuts off his head, and waits an entire year to receive the same blow back. This film I was very excited for because it was supposed to release last year, but COVID happened, the pandemic happened, and it got postponed. For me personally, I absolutely adored this film. The film is visually stunning. Every shot looks as if it belongs. Every frame is beautiful. There's lots of long takes of people just walking and talking. You really get a sense of the scenery. You really understand what's going on in each setting. I think this film looks stunning in every sense of the word. David Lowery knows how to move the camera around and knows what exactly to show and how to interest and make people focus on certain aspects in a frame. The acting is pretty strong too, with Dev Patel playing Sir Gawain being the main standout, as he is basically 99% of this film. I wouldn't say he's Oscar worthy or anything, but he really does provide a lot of the entertainment in this film. It's basically just him walking around, but he does it so damn good. I thought the music was beautiful. Although it's not memorable to me, I do remember watching the film and going, wow, this music surely fits the tone that this film is trying to achieve. There's a sense of terror, there's a sense of joy, and there's a sense of epicness. Because that's what this film is. This film is a big epic. It's more so about the journey than it is the destination. And I think that's what's the main gripe with most people in this film. They probably expected a lot more to happen. With me, I expected a big duel to happen between Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, but what I did get was totally enjoyable on my part. My only complaints with this film are the pacing. I do think the beginning is a tad slow, the first act mainly, and there are points throughout the film where I did expect a little more to happen, but it's just people sitting and talking, and although it was entertaining, although it looked beautiful, although the performances were great, it does feel rather slow sometimes. And it felt like Gawain should have been hurrying a lot quicker to the destination because of the setbacks that he faces along his journey. But overall, The Green Knight to me was beautiful. There's a lot to take away with one's mortality and honor and wanting to be more than what you are and what you think you are. The idea of mortality being in this film and how it messes with Gawain's head throughout the film is what stuck with me the most about taking away from this film, other than the filmmaking aspect, which is top notch. I'm going to give The Green Knight an A-. Up next is The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn. Now, before watching this film, I had a buddy over, and we decided to watch Suicide Squad from 2016, directed by David Ayer. I remember when I first watched Suicide Squad, I saw an early showing in IMAX 3D, and I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I didn't know what the people were upset about. I thought it was really good. But afterwards, I realized that it was an awful film, and watching it again, Suicide Squad, I realized how really, really bad Suicide Squad is. You can make the case that it's studio interference, or that David Ayer is a hack and doesn't know what he's doing. But in terms of The Suicide Squad, I thought this film was fantastic. It was enjoyable, it was funny, it was action-packed, it was gory, and it felt really personal to James Gunn. I like James Gunn. I liked his Guardians films, and I liked his writing on the Scooby-Doo films, the live-action ones from the early 2000s. This is a talented guy, and after being fired by Disney for Marvel Studios and directing Guardians 3, and being picked up by DC for The Suicide Squad, you can really tell that James Gunn did whatever the hell he wanted, because this film is batshit insane. It felt like he had no restraints on what he wanted to do. All the jokes are funny as hell, all the performances are great, and all the new characters presented are amazing. I love John Cena as the Peacemaker. He's an asshole, but he's funny as hell. I love Idris Elba as Bloodsport. I believe that's his name. He's just this really cool guy with a lot of cool weapons, and he has a lot of heart to him that you see later on in the film. Ratcatcher was amazing. She was cute. She had a little rat named Sebastian. He was funny as well, and she has a cool and interesting backstory. Polka Dot Man. Now, this is a character I did not expect to be this entertaining. Polka Dot Man was funny, he was charming, he was reserved, and his powers are really cool. But my favorite of the new characters introduced had to be King Shark, voiced by Sylvester Stallone. Seeing King Shark just jump around being an idiot and say all these stupid things because he is a shark who doesn't understand certain things and can't grasp certain things because he's a shark trying to learn how to walk and talk like a human is funny as hell. And imagining Sylvester Stallone in the recording booth just making all these stupid noises and doing all these lines, I genuinely laughed my ass off, because not only is King Shark easily the funniest part of the film, but this film is genuinely funny and it's genuinely fun. Something that Suicide Squad tried to be, but it also tried to be something serious. This film is also serious, The Suicide Squad, but it understands what it wants to be. James Gunn is a talented filmmaker and he totally understands what exactly he had to do. The characters were interesting, they had a lot of complexity to each other and what they wanted. I think the film looks great too. The special effects go from looking good to looking pretty good to looking just okay, mainly because of the gore. Now, I love violence in films, and this film is bloody. There's a lot of gore in it, and I was chuckling because, oh my god, look at all this shit going on in the film. James Gunn just had no restraints, and I absolutely loved it. Although this film was very enjoyable and I absolutely had a blast, it isn't perfect. There are certain complaints that I had, such as wanting to see certain characters for a little bit more. It felt like when a character had an arc, and as soon as that character arc was complete, bam, that character died off. I would have just loved to see just a little bit more of that character before they died off. And that just shows how much freedom James Gunn had. He kills off certain characters from other films. He kills off newer characters that you probably expected to stay a lot longer because of their big names. And the characters he killed off were quite surprising to me. I wanted to see more of these characters, but overall, I think he handled all these characters and how they interacted with each other very well. The biggest improvement from this film over Suicide Squad was the soundtrack choice. Each song that was used in this film felt like it mattered, felt like it belonged, whereas in Suicide Squad, it just felt like, hey, we need a pop song because the film's boring. Here, let's throw in Bohemian Rhapsody, for no absolute reason. The only song that fits in Suicide Squad is that Eminem song, Guess Who's Back or whatever. But all the songs that were used in the Suicide Squad felt like they mattered, felt like they belonged, and really helped the film. But overall, I had a blast with the Suicide Squad. I laughed my ass off. There were plenty of deep, resonating moments with these characters. The action was great. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is always hot. Sylvester Stallone as King Shark was just amazing and a joy to watch. John Cena was amazing as well. I really want to see more of Peacemaker, and we're going to get a Peacemaker show, so that's cool. And the film is just fun. That's all I wanted from this film. My worst fear was that it would have been bad and I would have hated watching it for the 2 hours or whatever it was. But overall, this is a perfectly enjoyable film. I laughed, I felt emotional, the action was great, it's silly, and it's the best DCEU film. I quite enjoyed it. I'm going to give The Suicide Squad an A-. Up next is Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, directed by Robert Schwentke. And this is the film that I saw because I was bored. I had nothing else to do. I took my friend to go see an early showing of a film that he can't talk about and I can't talk about. But while he was there, I decided to catch a film. It was either The Suicide Squad or Snake Eyes. And I'd already seen The Suicide Squad, so I decided to see Snake Eyes because growing up, I did like G.I. Joe. I wasn't as invested in it as something like, let's say, Ninja Turtles or Power Rangers, because those were things I liked as a kid, you know, big action stuff. So with this film, and I know that the previous live action G.I. Joe films were bad, I thought that over time people would know how to make an interesting and good film based around G.I. Joe. And I think with it being more centered on this character of Snake Eyes, I quite enjoyed it. I liked Snake Eyes. I thought it was a perfectly enjoyable film, and I know not a lot of people liked it, and for certain reasons I can understand why they don't like it, but I thought this was fine. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. I wouldn't even call this a bad movie. I would just call this a good or an okay film. Henry Golding played Snake Eyes, and I thought that the performances in this film were great. They're not Oscar worthy or anything, but they do help the scenes flow out a lot smoother. I like the production of this film. The sets looked interesting. They looked real. I found the characters to be interesting. I liked all the conflicts that they had with each other. Where I felt the film mainly lost me was the plot. Because as the film progressed, you can tell where exactly the film was going, about how Snake Eyes wanted to get revenge on the person that killed his father, and how the man that wants to recruit him wants him to gain the trust of a family so he can steal something and in return get his father's killer. And as the film progressed, I totally got what was going on. I totally understood how it would end out with him meeting his father's killer. But the performances were quite strong, so it felt a little more smooth, and it felt a little less cheesy just because these performances were quite good. The biggest strength of this film, I'd have to say, is the action, which got better over time, and I can understand why people didn't like the action of this film because of the editing. Now, while watching this film, I totally got that there were a lot of stunt people working on the film, and it looked very good. But the director and the editor kept cutting away from certain shots, and the editing was quite fast. And I kept thinking, why would you cut away so much? You could tell that a lot of the stuff going on was real and quite convincing, but they kept cutting away, and the camera kept shaking a lot, and that was a little distracting, so I couldn't really focus on the action, despite me being able to understand what was going on. But over time, as the action scenes became bigger and more exciting, with more stuff going on, the camera shook a little less and the editing became less noticeable. But overall, I quite enjoyed the action scenes in this film. They were fun, they were exciting, and they were quite enjoyable. Also, another complaint I had with this film was how PG-13 it was, that being, there was little to no blood. The only blood that was really shown was when Snake Eyes was getting beat up and he had to spit blood out of his mouth, and when he did a Blood Brothers thing with the character of Storm Shadow, or whatever his name was, before he turned into Storm Shadow. Another complaint I had was that there are some action scenes I would have loved to see, but they didn't show. I'm just going to spoil this film for a little bit because who cares about spoilers for G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes Origins, or whatever it's called. So there's a scene where the main villain of the film and this girl named Baroness are working together to get this stone and use the stone for evil because it has the power of the sun. But he betrays Baroness and keeps her locked in this room with the other bad guys to keep watch on them. So the grandmother character, the leader of this clan that Snake Eyes was betraying, Baroness and Scarlet decide to team up and take on all these bad guys and put their differences aside for one day. But they don't show that action scene. I would have loved to seen it. It would have made the film a lot more fun, I think. I think the film looks great. I thought the directing was okay. A lot of shots just seemed uninspired though, because there's a scene on a plane where it's just shot, reverse shot, and there's nothing more than just that. There's a couple pans from time to time that seem interesting, but overall I thought the directing of this film was okay at best. There could have been a lot more interesting shots of certain scenes. And there was an uncomfortable amount of lens flares throughout the beginning of the film. That just made me think, why are there lens flares right here? Was it added in post for some reason, or did you just not really think about when you were shooting the film? I will say I do not regret buying a ticket. I quite enjoyed this film. And it's kind of sad that this film is becoming a box office bomb. I'd say mainly because of COVID and other films coming out at the time, like Old. But I don't regret buying a ticket. I quite enjoyed this film. I liked the action. I liked the performances. The settings were nice. It's an interesting story, to say the least. But I felt like a lot more could have been done with this film. I'm giving Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins a C. It's not awful. It's okay. It's not great. It's just okay. I quite enjoyed it, and I don't regret buying a ticket. And finally, we have Free Guy, directed by Shawn Levy, which was supposed to come out last year, but COVID happened, so it got postponed. This film tells the story of Guy, an NPC or a non-playable character in a video game called Free City, who lives his life doing the same thing every single day. But one day, he sees a girl and decides that his life is going to change for the better. So when he meets a character being played by a real life person, he takes the glasses and sees the objectives that these players can see in this video game. And he decides to do everything he can to talk to this girl and make his life more interesting. But in the real world, it turns out that the character he falls in love with is a real life person trying to get a lawsuit on the creator of the game for stealing her work for the NPCs. And they soon find out that the game is going to get shut down, which means that Guy is going to be killed. And he is becoming the first artificial intelligence program in this world. I had a blast with this film. I was chuckling, I was giggling, I was laughing, I was smiling throughout this whole film because it is very damn enjoyable. And that's mainly due to Ryan Reynolds. He's just a charm to watch. He's good looking, he's funny, I like his mannerisms, I like his voice. He's just amazing. I don't know who else could have played this character. Aside from him, the most enjoyable aspect of the film is the action, which is fun, it's exciting, and it does a lot with the video game aspects of this film because they are in a video game. And I felt like the rules of it being a video game were followed quite well. And when you cut to the real world of people watching the video game, you see that it looks like a Grand Theft Auto video game somewhat. But whenever we cut back to Guy in the video game world, it looks like real life. I like that because it didn't try to be like Ready Player One, whereas inside the video game, it looked like a video game. It made the film feel a little more interactive. I liked all the performances. My other favorite performance besides Ryan Reynolds was Taika Waititi as Antoine, the head of this video game company who is having this conflict with Guy because people think that Guy is a character who uses the NPC as a skin, and he's changing the way people are looking at this game, and he wants to either promote him because he's such a cool character or kill him because he's killing off any anticipation for other games that he's trying to make. I didn't really care for the themes of this film, that being, living life and love and whatever. It was there. I understand it, and there are some quite touching moments that involve it, but overall I just wanted to have fun, and that's what I did. I did have fun. This is a very enjoyable film. I think it looks great. It's very funny. The action is really fun and exciting, and a lot of video game references, not like Ready Player One where there's a reference every 5 seconds, but more so like, hey look, there's a Halo tank, and there's a Halo Mantis, and here's a portal gun, and here's the gun from Half-Life. They reference Fortnite, they reference the Avengers, they reference Star Wars. A lot of that stuff's just really fun. And I can tell that everyone working on this film had a blast. They were just enjoying themselves. There really isn't much more for me to say about this film besides that it's fun, it looks good, it was quite enjoyable. I didn't really have many issues with it because I was just enjoying myself. If I were to reach for issues, it would be the smaller things, like there's a scene where Guy is talking to the character that he's in love with. They're at a stash house inside the video game world, and when she does a flip to land on the bike, she says, "Is that a Glock in your pants?" Now, that's funny, but it wouldn't make sense in the video game world for the character to feel that there is a Glock inside Ryan Reynolds' pants, to which she pulls out the 2 Glocks because Ryan Reynolds says there are 2 Glocks, to which she raises her arms up to each side and starts shooting the pistols. It's the smaller things like that that really made me think, okay, I understand you wanted to just have fun with this film, but it doesn't really follow all the rules of a video game, really. It's okay, though, because I did enjoy it. I overlooked stuff like that because I enjoyed this film. Also, the music wasn't that memorable. Not the soundtrack choices, but more so the composed score for the film. But while watching it, it did fit the tone that it wanted to go for. Some exciting moments, a little emotional moments, but it wasn't that memorable. Overall, I quite enjoyed Free Guy. I had a blast with it. I was laughing, I was chuckling. I'm giving Free Guy a B+. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't, please subscribe. Give this video a like if you liked it, or share this video with a friend or friends if they're interested in my thoughts on the films that I've talked about today. I'll see you next time with more movie reviews and enjoyable content like this. Bye.